hello everyone, and welcome to our community call. Today we're talking about reciprocity and value beyond money, which is a very exciting topic for me personally. I have been investigating all types of alternative economic models in the past years, and that one seems to be hitting the core. So I would like to welcome Rebecca Saltman with us, who's going to be our speaker, but also the facilitator of this call. It is a discussion, but also kind of like a mini workshop in which Rebecca is going to demonstrate to us how a reciprocity marketplace actually works. So very quickly about Rebecca, some of you might know her already as one of our newly joining GIG members and very exciting ones. Rebecca is a co-founder of a company in Portugal called Value Flow, where they're introducing very revolutionary and bold ideas on values and what we need to measure in the current economic systems. I recommend you check out the website if you haven't already. But aside from her work in this company, she's been leading this happening for quite some years now, over 10 years, I would suppose, where she would facilitate reciprocity marketplaces in different places where she have lived. And the only rule in that space is no money. So we'll do all kinds of transactions and all kinds of exchanges, but without thinking or mentioning the need for money. So I'm very excited to see how that is going to go. And I'd like to welcome all of you here. I think we're off into a very exciting ride that hopefully would influence our work at GIG and our work in our local communities everywhere in the world. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for being here today. And I hand over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for you all being here. I'd love to just start by saying thank you. This is not a talking at, this is a talking with. So I hope you guys will ask lots of questions and feel free to interrupt at any point. Um, just quickly, other things about me that are sort of important regarding why reciprocity. I'm a social entrepreneur, a proud gig member. I moved to Portugal 2.5 years ago, in 77 days from Colorado by way of Kansas City to Lisbon. I'm a partner in Value Flow, where we measure what matters and make the invisible invaluable. I can talk about that another time. Today's more about reciprocity, which is basically the heart of and the cornerstone of Value Flow as well. Um, what is sort of most important about this first part of the session is that you're asking questions and engaging in this is super important. Why? Because in order for us to
Great.
live and work in reciprocity, we actually have to remember and practice it. So again, feel free to jump in, ask questions. I will prompt questions, but just feel free to jump in. So my first piece is like, I would like to start with asking this question. What would it take to create a world where money is not our only form of currency? I believe that we've forgotten how to dream. We've lost our imagination, and it's not our fault because like we've been trained to believe that money is our only currency. I'm just going to let that sit for a second. It's not our fault. Money is the thing, right? Um, Felipe, I agree with you that we already do live in a world with many currencies, except most people don't know how to use them or don't choose to use them, right? So this is a world that people in general would believe that money is not our only currency. The Giger community is much more special than that. So I'm not expecting that you all believe that it's the only currency, except maybe we don't have an opportunity in which we can exchange without money. So this is why I deal in reciprocity. Um, does anybody on the call have a definition of reciprocity or like to believe what they think it is? There's no wrong answers. Does anybody want to just jump in and say? Claudia, go ahead.
Okay. I'll say very quickly that how I learned of it the first time was during my law studies, because that is a diplomatic concept, the concept of reciprocities between countries. You treat them the same way they treat you. So that's how I know of it. At least that's one definition.
Fantastic. Tuir, how about you? Do you know what the definition is, or do you want to take a stab?
Okay, for me, I think especially in Africa, the issue of reciprocity has always been there.
Yes.
The issue whereby when, as a people living within the same village, would actually, okay, for example, we are living with you and Fadia and me, we are living within the same village, then I need to build, to repair my hut. So I will come to you guys and tell you, as a look, my heart is falling apart and I need your assistance. So you'll say that, okay, the only day that I have an opening is on Friday, and Fadia could also have only Friday open. So we decide that on Friday we'll build my hut. Then after we've done that, Fadia comes in and says, look, my granary is also has a problem. So what day can you assist me in doing that? So it's a sort of revolving, as a rolling labor, whereby each one assists the other doing what they need. So that's how I look at it.
So, so beautiful. Perfect. Thank you. And I think it's Daniela. Is that you, my love? Yes, it is. Um, I need to give to repair my heart. I love this. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you. So, what I like to do to talk about the definition of reciprocity is actually to talk about what reciprocity is not. So, for me, and this is my definition after working in reciprocity world for many, many, many years, is that reciprocity is not barter and trade because it's not transactional. Many people believe that barter and trade is equal to reciprocity. What barter and trade is means I give you an orange and you give me an apple, and that they're about of the approximate same financial value to one another, right?
No.
And so what is super interesting is that that's maybe true. You might be able to do that, right? Unless you have an ancient apple that comes from an ancient seeds from the Silk Road, and you can only produce 100 of them. And that I am exchanging one orange from one of 10,000 in my orchard. So those do not have the same value. So barter is really based still on money. And it's very, very difficult, especially for people in our worlds, in the gig worlds, in these maker spaces and otherwise, because people don't exchange with us for true value. So then that goes to my next piece of what it is not. It's not exact equal exchange. So reciprocity doesn't require exchange to be identical. In all aspects. Someone might offer, say, emotional support, and somebody else provides practical help. So it's in the intention, in the spirit of mutuality that matter. Okay, so that's the second piece that it's not. Reciprocity isn't always immediate. So, for example, reciprocity doesn't have to happen instantly. Sometimes people reciprocate in a later time or in ways that aren't immediately apparent. Often, so maybe I'm sick and somebody makes me chicken soup. And later down the road, I don't necessarily reciprocate with chicken soup, but even though my chicken soup's pretty good, I might reciprocate with going and getting groceries while you weren't feeling well or something else that wasn't in an exact time. And then what I want to say is the opposite of reciprocity is unhealthy competition, where one side benefits at the expense of another. Reciprocity isn't coercive, transactional, or strictly tit for tat. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, cool. So in order to set the stage for today, I'm going to be super vulnerable, and some of you have already heard this, but I'm going to share the first draft of the introduction of my book, because I think it might help to sort of give my perspective of reciprocity. So my book is called Reciprocity, an Ancient Future Love Story. Here's the introduction. Tribe, noun, definition. A social group composed chiefly of families, clans, or generations sharing common ancestry and language. B, a group of people with shared character, occupation, or interest. C, a category of taxonomic classification ranking below subfamily. Looking back on my childhood, I've come to realize that I grew up in a tribe, not an indigenous tribe like a Native American or Aboriginal tribe, but a tribe nonetheless. My parents were extraordinary at building relationships. I have so many people who I consider family by love that I couldn't begin to count them. These are people who would describe themselves as friends who are family and family who are friends. I am without a doubt a very lucky woman. At the time, our tribe was rooted in a middle-class neighborhood just outside of Boston. We often hosted meals, sometimes on holidays, other times just an ordinary Sunday dinner. And when we did, I'd be sent across the street to borrow folding chairs that matched ours. Our two families had thoughtfully purchased matching sets of dishes, 12 in each home, so we could serve up to 24 people with a sense of unity and intention. If we ran short on eggs while cooking, I'd grab the key, head across the street, and take what was needed from their fridge. And their kids would do the same in our house. Though we always asked out of courtesy, permission was never really needed. We lived as one. Not every neighbor was this intimately connected to us, but there was always a general sense of care and community up and down the street. Parents looked out for the children. There was always enough babysitters. Everything flowed without keeping score. Nothing was transactional. Everyone was simply cared for. And it wasn't just our street. This spirit of shared life extended to many families in our wider tribe. People who to this day remain my family, even though both of my parents have long passed, and I now live far away. These are people who continue to share without expectation. There's a sense of belonging that doesn't need to be explained, and a deep mutual value that doesn't need to be spoken aloud. So why talk about tribe? Why begin this book, Reciprocity, an Ancient Future Love Story, with this reflection? Because I believe I was raised in a way that echoes ancient times, when people were resourced, not simply paid, and when they learned to share what they had, whether for themselves or for others. It was a world built on reciprocity, and that's the world I want to imagine with you. And indeed, the world I would like to imagine with all of you on the call and anybody listening later, especially for GIG, because I care so deeply about this. So what is reciprocity to me? So reciprocity, broadly speaking, refers to the mutual exchange of benefits, actions, or favors between individuals, groups, or systems that creates shared value and abundance for all. I'm going to say it again, okay? So reciprocity refers to the mutual exchange of benefits, actions, or favors between individuals, groups, or systems that creates shared value and abundance for all. See, I believe that we live in a world of separation from instead of inclusion with, so that it's hard to have reciprocity, right? So I was recently listening to Dr. Zach Bush. I don't know, have any of you heard of Zach Bush, Dr. Zach Bush? He's super amazing. Anyway, he was talking about birds. And he wasn't talking about reciprocity in particular, but he was talking about birds and talking about community. And then when you have 10 birds flying in a flock, they fly in a V, right? And so the lead bird, when the lead bird gets tired, goes to the end, and then the next one comes in, it's like this dimensional V shape. And so the lead bird gets tired and moves to the back, and others move up, and there's a shared leadership, and it's super simple, right? Then he was describing 10,000 birds together, and that now it's like nature in motion. It's called murmuration. Have you guys heard of this term, murmuration? So if you ever see a video of murmuration, it is like 10,000 birds and they're all moving and it's like art and poetry and motion. It's the most beautiful thing. That is reciprocity. It's all of this deep connection and collaboration with one another. They just move in motion and dance. And it's a world that we actually experience on a daily basis. It's just that we don't remember it. And so, because we're living in a system that is opposite of that. We have gone from being, from being a contributor to being a consumer. And we move from those 10,000 birds in a nuclear family, and now it's like this white picket fence, and there's the husband and a wife and 2.5 children, and everything in this picket fence is mine. Everything outside is against me. And so we need to shift from this because it's creating isolation, and it's moving us away from this practicality of reciprocity, because nature and everything outside that fence isn't against us. So we have to let go of this isolation, because at the end of the day, I believe we belong to each other in reciprocity. So in order to start this practice of reciprocity, we have to remember what we need, not what we want. Okay? So I don't know, have any of you heard about Robin Wall Kimmerer? She's this amazing botanist in the US. She's Native American and a botanist. These two worlds that are against one another for sure. This science and Native American practice. And she's sort of my living spirit guide. She's freaking amazing. She's written several books that I highly recommend. And this one book of hers started off as an essay called The Serviceberry. And in The Serviceberry, she starts off this conversation about reciprocity. And she talks about that she lives abutted to this forest, is her backyard. And she goes into her forest with a couple of buckets to go pick serviceberries. And they are, she talks about them in their anthropological and botanist kind of way. And I'm not giving anything away in the book, but it's a super beautiful story. She goes in and picks all these berries. And while she's picking, there's thousands of birds and they're eating so many berries. She can't imagine how they can fly. And then, so they're putting all the berries and she's putting all these berries into the buckets, and there's still so much and so plenty. And she has this thought, I haven't had to pay the sun or the rain or the bushes for these berries. I get them. I don't have to, I have this as part of nature, as part of reciprocity. The sun isn't paid by the bushes and the birds aren't paying anybody. So it's this circular economy that creates life. And we get to live in this same circular economy, but we supplant money in the middle. And so it's this, we need to get back to this story, or at least I do, of where we find what we need instead of being transactional with money. So I want to ask, what is transactional in our lives these days? Does anybody have thoughts about that?
Everything. Food.
Food, yeah, for sure. Anything else?
I can't think of what's not transactional except relationships, love.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are transitioning into that place, but hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Unfortunately, relationships too are going transactional now.
Oh yeah, terrible, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, many professional relationships
have become, yeah, transactional, right?
Like I do something that helps you, so I hope you do something that will help me.
Yeah.
Not that that's the ideal.
Yeah, as opposed to, this is a great point, Rachel, as opposed to the idea that that we just do it because it needs to be done, right? So this is super, and as opposed to this idea of transaction, like I'm giving you something and you're going to give me something later. I'll just put that on the checkboard, right? So then the next question then is that what are currencies that are required in reciprocity that are not transactional? What are other currencies other than money? Any thoughts?
Care.
One more time.
Care.
Care.
Please
Beautiful.
repeat.
One more time. I didn't hear you.
Please repeat what you asked.
So what are the currencies other than money that are required in reciprocity? What other currencies do you need?
We'll say time.
Time.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Other thoughts?
Trust.
Beautiful. Thank you. You've done my work for me. What other things?
Andrew's putting
community.
reputation.
Reputation. Beautiful. That's exactly right. So these are the perfect things because if we imagine the currency of trust, of time, of attention, of relationships, what changes? And so trust is one of the most important currencies there is because it can't be bought. And there's a book called The Speed of Trust. Highly recommend it. And what is talked about is it takes years to build trust and only moments to kill it, right? And someone who you would easily dismiss could have an incredible impact on your life in reciprocity. So this idea of trust of somebody, for example, if you have a trusted babysitter in your life that also cleans your house and does all of these things, the value is very different than the cost, right? I'll get to another example of that in just a moment. And then time and attention. Time and attention are the only currencies on the planet that every single being has and has to give and receive. So, birds and all kinds of animals, trees, plants, everything has time and attention, not just us. So when you say that time equals money, it actually devalues your time because time is fixed and money isn't. And time is not valued equally, right? So here's an example. If I'm a babysitter and you guys are attorneys, well, I'll just say Fadia is an attorney because she kind of is. She is. And if we focus on our current economic system and work with our current system of exchange, there isn't enough minutes, hours, days, weeks, months to exchange the lawyer with the babysitter, right? There's no way to do that. Yet, I'm taking care of your kids. What is the value of your children? This is a problem. So, how valuable is your children? So if we're considering actual value versus, financial value, things change. So here's another question. Who was required to work during the pandemic? Who was required? Daniela.
I was required.
Oh, you were no, like, what kinds of, I'm sorry, what kinds of, what kinds of
caregivers, teachers,
that's right.
City representatives, cleaners,
That's right.
everyone they were called in Germany, they were called essential or something like that.
Yeah. So the care economy, really, right?
Yeah. And
yeah, is the care economy valued? At right, zero. And yet they were essential during the pandemic. They get paid like crap. They get and yet at least in the US, everybody was cheering for the nurses at the end of the day. Like, what the hell? Like, let's actually take care of them. not like I appreciate the clapping for them, but still, let's be clear. And then here's another piece. What's the value of a pristine forest? It has no economic value unless the trees are cut down and you can put up condos or a solar farm. Yet we need to breathe, right? So when we believe that money is our only currency, we bankrupt all of our other valuable currencies. Our deforestation, overfishing, fossil fuel extraction, depleting our ecosystems, and way faster than they can regenerate, right? So, sorry, just somebody asked to transcribe, which I'm grateful for. So in order to have reciprocity, we have to explicitly decouple it from value, money from value, okay? So I'll give you another quick example. So I found this huge problem when I was networking years ago, right? And what is the first question anybody asks you in a networking situation?
How can I help?
No, that would be great if that was the first question asked in a regular networking question.
What do you do?
What do you do? Thank you, Iris. What do you do? Okay, how transactional is that damn question? Right? So for many years ago, I came up with this hack. Instead of asking people what they did, I would start asking people what they needed. This was sort of the very beginning of my reciprocity journey. And the craziest thing happened, right? When I asked a man what he needed, he would say what? But what would a man say in a networking transactional, like in a transactional networking event? What would a man say? Any guess? This is good. Okay, I'll just say like $1 million or a car or something like this. And if they said $1 million, I would say, great. What do you need $1 million for? And they would be like, didn't know what he needed. He wanted $1 million, but he didn't know what he needed. And then if I asked women what they needed, like a woman what she needed, what would she come back with?
Security.
Time.
Good one. Time. Anything else? So what most women would say is, what do you need? Because they couldn't say or verbalize immediately what they needed. Most people don't know what they need. And so because we want results versus actual next right thing that will lead to an outcome, right? So in a networking transactional event, I'm not talking about a gig event, or most of the people on this call understand much better, right? We need clarity before we engage in networking and partnerships or the work of our maker spaces and the arts and all of these things. We need clarity of what we need. So I'd like to pause for just a moment. And if you have paper and pencil, great. If you don't, just think about, what do you need? Like, what do you need for real? Not money. What do you need? Super. I'm just going to give you guys just a minute to think it through. All right, so I'm gonna tell you a practical example of what we were doing. Quit smoking. That's a lovely one. So here's a quick example. In my business in Value Flow, several years ago, before I had even moved to Portugal, we were working with 10 land projects. And every week we would do a reciprocity marketplace, which I'm going to introduce to you guys here in a few minutes. And in this reciprocity marketplace, the only thing, as Fadia said at the beginning of the time, that you couldn't ask for is money. You just can't ask for money. Okay, great. So one time, one of the land project managers gets on the call and he's freaking out, hair on fire, like the whole bit, like blah, 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 blah. what's going on? I need 10,000 euros and I need it now. Huh. Super interesting question. Super interesting need. What is going on and what do you actually need? So come to find that it comes to explain that, in fact, the hot water heater is out in the land project. There's 20 people there helping. And being without a hot water heater sort of at the end of the pandemic in central Portugal in February, not so great. Okay. So in fact, he didn't need 10,000 euros. He didn't even need a hot water heater. He needed hot water, right? So we spent some time having a conversation about how and where and what he could do to get hot water. Are there other people? Is there hot springs nearby? Is that the very creative process, right? It was super gig-like, super lovely. And after some time, and coming up with some pretty interesting ideas of partnership and finding ways to borrow things, one of the other project managers said, "Hey, what kind of hot water heater do you need?" And he said, "I need an XYZ hot water heater." He said, "Could you use an ABC hot water heater?" And he said, "Well," and they talked about it for a couple of minutes. And in fact, he could. He said, "Well, I have an ABC hot water heater and you can have it." And so this is what we're going to do. You're going to come over to our project, our land project, bring a few of your 20 people, bring some shovels and rakes and stuff, and we'll start prepping the ground for the planting season. We'll have a meal together. We'll get to know each other. We'll dismantle the hot water heater from here. We'll go back to your place, maybe have another meal, get to know your folks, and reinstall it. And so what happened was it went from a 10,000 euro extraction from all of these communities to what probably amounted over the past couple of years as 100,000 euro infusion in circular economy. Because what they started learning about each other, they started sharing wisdom, they started sharing stuff, they started sharing, like tools and all of these things. Because they decoupled the money from the need. So it's about needing hot water, not about needing 10,000 euros, right? So at this point, when I talk about this stuff, I often get asked, well, how do I pay my rent if I don't have money? And so, although I'd love to answer that, I would like to first ask you guys, how do you pay your rent if you don't have money? Do you guys have any thoughts about that?
Couch surfing,
Couch surfing is a good possibility.
woofing.
See? Is it really the right question? Because you don't, for the things that Daniela just mentioned, you don't need money. You need safe, warm, and dry. You need a roof over your head, but you don't need money. Always. You want money. You want to pay your rent. You want to do those pieces, but it's not the right question. If you need housing or you need a roof over your head, is different from asking for how do you have money to pay for your housing. It's two different questions. And so again, it's about decoupling the need for money from the need. Peace of mind, yes, we all need peace of mind. Can you get me some too? I'll buy some of that. So I'd like to ask you all what you really do need. And so we're going to do this reciprocity marketplace. We'll practice a little bit and see if it's fun. And there's 4 aspects to a reciprocity marketplace. First is to identify a need. The second is dismantling it from money. The third is breaking it down into the need into reciprocal pieces and opportunities, and then making the opportunity offered and shared. Okay, I'll say it one more time. Identify the need, take it away from money, break down the need into reciprocal pieces, and then making the opportunity offered and shared. Okay, So I'm going to give you a quick example of, I started doing these reciprocity marketplaces in the early 2000s. And we did them for 10 years in Denver. And it totally changed the entire community because everybody started to understand what people needed, not people what people needed for money, right? Like what people actually were needing. So this is not a true example, but I'll give it as an example anyway. So basically, you have 3 minutes to talk about your problem, the opportunity and the need for reciprocity. So I am doing a walk-run event for cancer, a fundraising event for cancer. And you'll go first then, Daniela. And and what happens is that I need to tell you a little all about this walk-run event for cancer. I need volunteers. I need people. I need food. I need water stations. I need to find out how to get the roads closed. I need to get permits. I need to get all of these things. And so I have broken it down into pieces and ways in which I need help. Then open it up to questions. So the first question on this is a woman stands up and says, okay, my child has a Girl Scout troop and they need their volunteer badge. Can the girls volunteer? And the answer is yes. So thank you. So what you then do is in the chat, I write Rebecca Saltman, Girl Scout troop, email address. And that it is my responsibility to go back to the woman and say, and with her email and say, okay, how can you help me with that? The next person stands up and says, hey, I own a pasteleria, I have pastel de nada, but I'm not allowed to sell them day old. Great. I absolutely want your day old pastel de nada. Sounds delicious. And I'll even give you a tax receipt. Great. So pastel de nada. Okay. Now, okay, so I know people have to go. So let's do a quick practice. So Daniela, do you want to describe your need?
Yeah, well, I feel we all like that. That's what we do here at GIG. So I love hearing you putting in words what we all just do naturally, because it's just not. I mean, I can't even believe that there is a place on this earth that works differently. Apparently there is. Not in
There's
my
lots
life.
of them, sadly.
I don't know them, don't care. I hope they don't come close to me. Anyhow, guys, what I need, I mean, the full intelligence here. I really need to leave in 5 minutes. But I tell you, I need your to pick your brains on a challenge that I accepted. So this Friday, I will do a closing keynote at a Portuguese luxury summit. Don't ask me how I got there, okay? It's an unpaid gig. I said yes because I'm bringing my students with me. So I'm taking all networking events right now that I can go to if I can have 5 extra tickets to get my students to understand the Portuguese ecosystem. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going. And then I want to pick your brain on how can I provoke them in a way that they re-understand luxury in a way that, you know, luxury is to be free. Luxury is to produce things that actually that actually last a lifetime. Luxury is to buy a piece of clothes or a car or a washing machine that you can then give to your children. You know, this is luxury, right? And I think this is the it's not disposable access, I guess. So what I want to do with them is kind of like reframe a little bit how they think about the industry. And why do I think it's important? The luxury industry is the one destroying the Portuguese society at the moment in real estate and tourism. It's the ones that are absolutely really destroying the very fabric of our society, of my society now, because I'm Portuguese by choice, for the ones who don't know. So yes, that's what I need. I really need some really good examples, way practices, workshops. I have their full attention for around 30 minutes. And there's going to be all the big players in luxury industry in Portugal, and they don't know I'm going to sneak in to do something. So thank you.
Great. So my question then is, does anybody have any questions for Daniela? No. Okay. So if anybody can help Daniela, put your name, your email address, and what you can offer her, and she will email you or get in touch with you. Okay? Put it in the chat. Twer, do you want to go before you have to jump off for prayer? Or who had to jump off for
Yeah,
prayer?
it was Twer.
Yeah.
Tahir. Yeah.
Would you like to try? What do you need?
The most important thing to so which I feel I need now is money, which we are not allowed to have.
Well, what else can you break it down into? What other things could you break it down into?
Okay, I need to connect at least 10 schools within the area that I'm in. So what I need is the radios, the routers.
What else?
That's basically what I need.
To connect everybody together.
Yes.
Technically, okay. So
Yeah.
does anybody have any questions about what Twer needs in terms of technology or any of the things? Or have any thoughts before?
No, just yeah, sorry.
So maybe like some website for the project and the area you're in, and if you already have some sponsors who give away routers and infrastructure for internet, right? You want to connect the schools
Yes.
to internet. Mhm.
So that would be great. So anybody that has any thoughts, ideas, or Twer, I'll let you put the website in the chat as well. But if anybody has any ideas that would be useful to be able to start thinking about connecting to this, that would be great. Put it in the chat. Sounds good. Fantastic. And then Twer, we'll get that information back to you, okay? And then Fadia, how about you?
Well, I am currently in the middle of a personal project, creating online Pilates educational content, where I've already shot a lot of very interesting content and moves, and I need help with editing and making it illegible, and also having it being edited from a perspective of someone a beginner who's trying to learn Pilates, basically. So if I would break that down, I need people who are interested in learning Pilates and are willing to help me edit videos.
Very good. And so does anybody have any questions about what that would look like? Or if is there anything in particular that they need to understand before the offer? Okay, so if anybody has any anything to offer Fadia, please put your name and your email address and what you have in the chat, so Fadia could check in with you, or even some ideas. So like if I as I understand it, Fadia could use just somebody that could hold her hand in her hair as she's trying to put the videos together, even if they need to learn too, or if there's some software that it makes it easy or otherwise. So feel free to put your name and email in the chat. Twer, thank you so much for joining. Is there anybody else that would like to try? And this is in a less rushed setting to get to the end of an hour. when you can imagine this, what happens is that when you continue to ask for what you need, then the community starts to also ask for what they need and give what they can. So what would happen in our reciprocity marketplaces is that, always you would get more than you ever imagined or planned. And because the strangest things would come up and the most interesting offers would come up of things that you never imagined. And so just this as a practice, it's even hard to start to think about how you need and what you need versus money, right? And so if we were to practice this as a community, what would be the possibility? And so does anybody else want to just sort of give it a quick try and just say out loud, since this is being recorded and other people from GIG will have the opportunity to talk about it or help us out? Okay. Rachel, did you have something? You're on mute, my dear.
Yes and no. So I didn't have something I need help with. I need to think about that a little bit more. But if no one else does, I have a question for you.
Sure, please.
Okay, so I guess the question is how can we help ourselves and others to break out of kind of the more non-reciprocity mindset? For example, I love couch surfing. I love also house swapping, flat swapping, but I have obligations to not lose my flat. So I have to make the person to whom I owe happy, right? So
Sure.
either I have, and so far the currency that we exchange in is in euros. So what is the answer? Like, what would the answer be then? Since I can't just sell all my belongings and start couch surfing tomorrow,
Of course.
or woofing. I love woofing as well. Would it be like coming up with a barter arrangement with that other person or with others so that I can collect what I need to make that other person satisfied? How can I bring that other person into the reciprocity orbit? Just thinking.
So, I mean, we still live in this world, right? So this is a bridge to get to what you're describing. And I think that what you're bringing up is super important, especially amongst GIG. Like, what are the opportunities? And you've mentioned some really great ones. What are other opportunities? So, sometimes when you talk to a landlord, there's other things that they might need more than they need money. Sometimes. I'm not saying that this is always the case, but maybe they need something that you can provide. Maybe they need consulting, maybe they need cleaning, maybe they need whatever. Maybe they need something else that you can provide that is not financial. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to start cleaning his house every week or whatever, but or whatever, but there might be something. And until you ask the question, we can't actually start the conversation. And it's hard. It's hard to ask the question. And I'm the girl that does that all the time. But it's super interesting because I have a lot of friends that do massive retreats and big things. And so sometimes I've asked a couple of them, I'm like, what could we do in reciprocity instead of me paying $2,500 for your, I'm happy to pay some, or, like, what do you need instead of that 2,500, like that would actually provide more value to you than that $2,500? Sometimes the answer is not, I need the $2,500 and that's it. Or for classes, I've done this with major, teachers of mine, and that they get 10 grand for, a class. And sometimes they actually say yes, and that there's things that they need that I can help with. Sometimes they need connections. Sometimes they need to be, they need to be connected to different communities or different possible buyers or different whatever. So to be able to open the question of what do you need that might be more valuable than money is always an interesting and important one. And I'm not saying that it always happens, right? Felipe, I'm agreeing with you. To be able to swap flats already is a privileged position. Yep. And the sad reality is that often people, yeah. This is all true. And then this is all because, you know, in the world, we still are connected to this thing called money is the form of currency. And so when we start to just question it, not dismiss it, just ask for something else, like ask for needs instead of actually what else is possible. So I'm living in this amazing place in Portugal now. Single mom, 3 boys, and I get the chance though to maybe like if I when she's away, she'll ask me to walk the dog and do whatever, and so then maybe she takes some money off my rent for a month or whatever. So it's to ask the question and start asking the question. We're not going to fix it until we start asking the question is, I guess, my bigger point of view. Thanks for the question, Rachel. Appreciate it. Does anybody else have any questions or asks?
I have a question for general GIG members here. So from today's amazing presentation / workshop by Rebecca, how do you see this apply in your context, in your, I don't know, day-to-day life? It doesn't have to be just work related, but I'm just curious on how that resonates with you.
And I love what Rachel just put in the chat, right? Because it could, you know, the idea of asking the question could actually be the beginning of a super powerful collaboration, which has always been the case for me. And is very gig-like. Super gig-like. Anybody else have any thoughts? Instead of asking for what you do for a living, people often state what neighborhood they're from. Or, that's beautiful. I love that. That's beautiful. So I
can share something.
Please, Iris, thanks.
Oh, maybe I should put the camera on. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Yes, I've very much of that philosophy as well. But what I've been doing in terms of networking events, which I learned to like, because it's not really my favorite space to be, because I think of that nature, whenever you go to a network event, the idea is always how we can use each other. And that preset of going to a network event always really stopped me from going to network events. I absolutely feel out of place there because this is not how I operate. So a few years ago, in a similar conversation, with a friend of mine, I kind of started doing it differently. So now when I'm at networking events or I'm meeting people, I actually tend to ask people if I can. I kind of say, okay, what makes you happy? So that's one of the things that I ask now, not what you do, but what makes you happy. And then really interesting conversations come out of that because people are not expecting it. And then suddenly they have to actually take a different perspective on what they do. Because maybe they are excellent at what they do, but they're not even happy.
Totally.
So yeah, so I just wanted to make that comment.
Super beautiful. Thanks, Iris. The other thing that I always ask in networking events is what occupies your time? Because what occupies your time is not always what you do. What occupies my time? I'm swimming every morning. Super good for me, and it makes me a better person for everybody around me. So, you know, like if we can start to decouple these things, it'll just get easier. And I don't have a cure-all. I don't think anybody does. I think we just have to practice because reciprocity is ancient and future. It is not, we have not been in, we've been in this muddy middle for a really long time. So it's going to take a minute. And if we practice, I believe that we will absolutely be able to start doing this on a regular basis. So that's my strong point of view, if you'll take it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. That felt like a journey in time, really. I didn't feel the time at all. It was by far one of the most entertaining and enriching conversations and community calls I've had. Really, it felt like I was surfing a wave. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for this amazing call. We
Super
are
grateful for
approaching,
everybody here. So
yeah,
thank
the
you.
end of our community call. I hope everyone has enjoyed that as much as I did. And thank you so much for joining from different parts of the world. And some of us on a train in France, others in Kenya, Brazil, Kosovo.
Australia in the middle of the night for Andrew.
Exactly. In Australia in the middle of the night, Andrew. So thank you so much. We look forward to continue this conversation within GIG, with you, Rebecca, with everyone else. So stay tuned for the recording of this session and also a blog post to it for everyone basically who are not able to attend. But I also want to say that this month is kind of shaping up beautifully around alternative futures and new ideas and very revolutionary ideas. So our next community calls are going to also be presenting different perspectives on values, economic well-being, and solar punk. So stay tuned. I look forward to weave all these community calls together and see how we could shape that into a nice series. So yeah, see you on the next one. And thank you everyone for being here today. Bye-bye. Thank you, Rebecca, so much.
Ciao and beijos from Portugal.